Yeah, you can take it to the bank. Hold the line. Hey,
We are back, ladies and gentlemen, on a post-ICAST episode of Take It to the Bank podcast. I am your host, Ben Ballou, and we got a real special guest with us today. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, the man, the myth, the legend, Hunter Baughman of Arkansas. The audience are big fans. Yeah, you'd be amazed at what I got on this here computer. So, dude, thank you very much. Hunter and I haven't known each other very long. Called him a few months ago, asked him about filming an episode of Fishing University with us for the television show. He obliged, and I'm not going to lie, I kind of fell in love with the dude. He is super happy-go-lucky, fine-looking young man in a completely heterosexual way, but one of the best dudes you'll ever be around. Every time you talk to him, he's pretty tickled, unless he's kind of getting his butt kicked on the St. Lawrence River. But even then, he was pretty happy. So, Hunter, Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us, and I'm excited to talk to you.
Hey man, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about it. Thank you for carrying me fishing for a few days a while back too, man. I had fun. I told my wife we came home. I'm like, I feel like I've known those guys forever.
Exactly. No, I got those feelings with you too. Hunter's a great dude. Fishes on the NPFL as a pros. Fish there 5 years since this your fifth year or fourth year.
This fifth year started, 21. So this will be the fifth season.
So as you can look behind him, I mean, my man has got a trophy case that is second to very few in Central Arkansas for dang sure. And Hunter, to say the least, has got some struggles and ain't really like the rest of us in some physical ways. But now dude catches them, and that's to me one of the most impressive things about you. So let's just dive into it. Talk about you. We are going to get to some fishing content that we always do as far as how to catch them in the dog days of summer. This is going to go for pretty much any river fishery. Arkansas River probably don't apply to the Tennessee as much, but could do the Red River, the Sabine, the Cumberland, Old Hickory, Barkley, those kind of things. Rivers are what we're going to be talking about after we kind of get Hunter's story, because again, it's a really, really cool freaking story. So, Hunter, I mentioned you ain't really like a lot of the rest of us. Now, it's because you catch them better than I do. That's the difference in us.
Yes. No.
I mean, I don't have an MLF Toyota Series champion plaque behind me. If you notice, I've got every trophy I've ever won behind me. Just ain't many of them.
Oh man, blind hog get lucky every once in a while.
Well, you seem to get lucky quite a bit. Fresh off a top 10 at Eufaula on the NPFL, and you fish, what'd you say, 45 tournaments a year? And man catches them.
Yeah, golly, a bunch here. Every bit of 45. The river, Arkansas River's been high. We hadn't had anything, and now they all want to have them at one time. I've got like 4 this week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, we got one in the morning, so we need to wrap this up pretty quick, or?
Oh, tomorrow evening. A lot of evening tournaments, but we got Sunday evening, Tuesday evening, Thursday evening, also one during the day Thursday, and then back to Sunday evening. Yeah, it's everybody's making up time right now. The river just came down the last week.
Yeah, I had a ton of rain throughout the central United States. Horrible what happened down there in Texas a few weeks ago. And shoot, it's been high everywhere. Been high around here. We've had current like we've not ever seen on Kentucky Lake this late in the year. Things are kind of stabilizing, kind of settling back out right now. But let's get into your story. At the end of the day, you're a freaking fisherman, and you love bass fishing just like the rest of us. But you've had some struggles that I personally haven't had to go through. And the way you overcame them, your positivity, all that stuff is amazing to me. One of my favorite, you don't like to talk about your handicaps or disabilities a ton because you want to be talked about for your fishing acumen, and you dang sure got that, but you've got some struggles that a lot of the rest of us don't. I mean, I got 2 of them.
Yeah. So just jump in it. I had bacterial meningitis when I was 9 months old. And I lost, of course, everything's backwards on the camera, but I lost all my fingers on my left hand and partial fingers on my right. I'm also an amputee below both knees. And so, yeah, it's been a little bit of a challenge. I use a wheelchair, used to use prosthetics, hated them. I was 9 months old, so it's really all I ever knew. The good Lord saved my life. I had 112-degree fever. Like I wasn't supposed to live. I'd be a vegetable if I did live. So just thankful to be here. and have such a passion for the outdoors. My family had me in the outdoors when I was like so young, I don't remember, and that's what I've always loved. I'm so competitive. And I played when I wore my prosthetics. I played basketball and soccer in like junior high, and I was terrible. But like when I started the fishing thing when I was in my teens, I mean, I was fishing, but when I started the tournament thing in my teens, gosh, I didn't do very well for a few years. I got my tail kicked, but I loved the competition, and eventually, as it grew, I was like, man, maybe I could actually do this at a higher level.
Well, I think one of the coolest things about fishing is while it's insanely physical to do it at a high level, you don't have to have your legs to fish. You don't have to have, it makes it a lot easier if you got legs and both arms and both hands, but you don't have to. Like that old, young, wheelchair, walking, one leg, no legs, like anybody can fish. And that's one of my favorite things about it.
That's right.
So you grew up, this was all you knew. So, after the sickness was over, luckily the good Lord pulled you through. And at that point, sounds to me like you had some great parents that, didn't coddle you too much and didn't say, well, you can't do this because, you've been sick, or you can't do this because you don't have legs or whatever. You was normal just like the rest of us.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't let excuses fly. They wanted me to live as normal life as I could. If I said I couldn't do something, we'd figure out a way to do it. And they just wouldn't let me hang out the house. Like they wanted me going and doing, and I wanted to. Like I didn't want to sit at the house, And they were behind me. Anything I needed to help, they had, but they really wanted me to figure it out on my own. They owned grocery stores as I grew up till 08 or 09 after I graduated, and like I worked in them, and I think I was, gosh, maybe 11 when they first opened the first grocery store. Man, I spent my life in a grocery store way before I was old enough to actually get paid and work, like every day after school. Then they're doing, and I mean, I just grew up working for them and hunting and fishing, and that was life. And we really didn't think about what I could have had. I mean, I've had bad days, but they're far and few between. Most of my bad days don't revolve around the disability, they're something else, related. But yeah, I mean, it's they wouldn't cut me any slack. And I'll tell you what, my wife, we've been married for 12 or 13 years now, and it's same deal. She doesn't cut a lot of slack either. She helps me a whole lot, but there's not a lot of slack cut.
Completely. So, past the bacterial meningitis, like 9 months old, you lose a hand, you lose some fingers, you lose both legs. I mean, past that, you've been pretty healthy, right?
Yeah, there was some revisions. Obviously, like as you're a kid, your body's still growing, like a bone's growing, a leg's growing, but there's not a leg to grow, So there was some where they kind of had to do some revisions, some minor, well, not that minor, but fairly minor surgeries, But other than that, it had no lasting effect other than I'm a little shorter than everybody else.
Not the tallest guy, but
not a well adept at sight fishing.
They outlawed people standing on ladders and stuff like that. Like, I think we should put it to a vote in the NPFL that if there's a sight fishing derby, you get to be 6 foot tall or at least like 5'11". You know what I mean?
I always say I'm going to put my wheelchair in the boat, and like nobody's going to crap about my wheelchair being in the boat, but I'm scared to death I'm going to fall out of the boat trying to get out of it to lip a fish. I'm afraid when I go to get out, I'm going to like going in the water.
We'll have a talk with Mike and Brad and Paul and that bunch, and if they schedule a sight fishing derby, then I'm gonna start a petition.
Yeah, I need a 10-foot platform. Just have like a little mini deer stand in my boat.
There you go. Something like that. So how did you mentioned you'd hunted fish kind of like that all your life. Like, when did you figure out that you love fishing, and tell me some stories about growing up?
Oh gosh, I remember I was so young. My family fished to eat. I mean, it didn't matter. We didn't catch any 10-pound bass, but if we did, we would have ate it just like it was a 1-pound bass. Yep. We crappie fished a whole lot. I remember one time in particular, my dad, my grandpa, and I were in the boat, and like we just caught crappie after crappie. My grandpa said something along the lines, "Well, he's gonna be all right," and I was pretty young then. But gosh, I don't remember the first trip. I have so many memories of catching fish and just good old country way, man. Until I kind of started the tournament deal and got a little bitty old metal bass boat. Before that, we had a 14-foot, like a 1432 or 1438 with an 8-horse. I mean, my dad still got it. It was my grandpa's. It's like a 60 mile. And I mean, that's what we fished out of. We was just that go run a trot line or a jug as we were to go use a rod. You know, if we were fishing, most time it was with minnows. But I mean, that was life, and I know this is not a hunting show, but deer hunting was life too, man. I mean, I grew up in a family that deer hunted, you know, all the time, and I've always said if I could deer hunt all year, I might just sell all my fishing stuff. But it's just the outdoors in general was just how I grew up for sure.
Again, no difference in you and I.
Right.
You know, I've watched my granddad stick a knife in a whole lot of 4-pound smallmouth, and I mean, not think twice about it. I mean, he loved to eat fish, and you know, we caught crappie, and if he wants to catch a catfish, he'd go in a box or whatever. My granddad fished some tournaments, so you know, I grew up him telling more stories about fishing afternoon tournaments and in the local bass club and stuff like that. But that's kind of what, you know, sparked my passion for it as well, and sound like we grew up a lot alike there.
Right, for sure. It was always something somewhere. My dad worked nights a lot growing up, and Saturday morning he'd get off and he'd carry me to the water and we'd fish for a while before he went to bed, so we'd go do it again the next night, you know.
Well, let's talk about kind of getting into tournament fishing, when you started finding some success and that kind of thing.
So I don't remember the exact age, 13, 14. I wasn't old enough to drive. And we had this thing, anybody in this Arkansas or surrounding areas probably remembers it. It's Arkansas Big Bass Bonanza. And it went from Fort Smith to Dumas. So it was the entire length of the Arkansas River in Arkansas. It had like 5 different ways. It was a big deal, 3-day deal. Like, fished like, I don't know, 300,000 people at one time throughout the state. I mean, it was a big deal. And I decided I wanted to fish that. And we had this little flat bottom, and we had a family friend that was in the boat industry. Talked him into sponsoring us a metal bass boat. And I thought, well, that was easy. And it was never that easy again. But Dad and I took that boat and we went for all 3 days, and we did terrible. But just the competition part of it, like we caught a couple that we got to weigh in. They just weren't enough to get paid. And it's like, oh man, this is a lot of fun. And I kind of wanted to do that more. And I like that so much more than staring at a bobber with a minnow. Like, and I really like doing that too, but something about the artificials and moving and making decisions I enjoyed. And so I ended up getting mom and dad got me a little, like a 1754 metal bass boat with a 50 horse on it, older one. And started playing with it some. I still didn't have a truck. Like, people would have to come get me and go to the water. But I started, and then we got in tournaments a little bit, fished that one with Dad, and then my cousin and he's the same age I am. We started fishing, man. We fished a lot. And it took us like 3 or 4 years. Like, we was fishing a weekend, you know, club deal, and then some night tournaments on Lake Hamilton. Man, eventually, like, we just kept getting our teeth kicked in. I'll never forget, my family had a condo on Lake Hamilton. And we'd go down there, and I kind of grew up doing that. Like, Mom would take me and my cousin down there, and we'd stay for like 2 or 3 weeks in the summer. Like, that's kind of where I learned to bass fish. It's almost 2 hours from where I live now, but learned a lot about bass fishing on Lake Hamilton. And that's the first time we really got to use a boat by ourselves. And, you know, first it was only in the pocket where they could see us, and we got to move out. But I thought I knew a lot about Hamilton. I'll never forget the first tournament I ever fished outside the Big Bass Bonanza. It was a club tournament. We signed up for the year, and the first one was on Lake Hamilton. And we went and did what I thought we needed to do, and we had like 8 or 9 pounds, which is what I thought we needed. And dude weighed in 2 5-pounders, had like 19 pounds, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not cut out for this. This ain't gonna work. and it was like that for 2 or 3 years. Now, I definitely had role models like my dad, my grandpa, and actually my cousin's grandpa, that taught us a lot about fishing, but I didn't have a whole lot of guidance on bass fishing. Like, most of what I know for a long time, I learned in the boat with my cousin. And we would actually, that condo had a big old seawall, went 1/4 mile around there, and we would take off and fish. Say we wanted to learn a topwater, we'd go all the way around that seawall with a topwater, and we'd come back to the condo and we'd tie on a jig, and we'd go all the way around the seawall with a jig. We'd come back and we'd tie on a crankbait, and we did. That's before we could use a boat by ourselves, you know, and kind of taught ourselves what each bait did, you know, and kind of what a bite felt like. But man, it was, I don't know, 2 or 3, 4 years into it. We actually, that same Big Bass Bonanza, we caught the pool winning fish, which was $4,500 at the time. And which for a high schooler is a gob of money, even splitting it.
Oh, yeah.
Still a gob of money. It's like, oh gosh, that's pretty awesome. And then just pretty close after that, we won a night series championship. We've been fishing, won like another $1,000 on Hamilton. And I was like, all right, like I've made $5 million in the last month fishing. Really, it was like, 2,500, but still, I was like, I'm ready to do this forever, and I still had no idea. I really didn't. I knew I wanted to do it. Like, if nothing else, I wanted to do it on the weekends. Like, that's what I wanted to do, go fish tournaments. I started doing it like, man, I don't fish much during the winter, but from February to October, it was every Saturday. Like, I fished, not a lot of BFLs or anything, a lot of team stuff still, but I fished something every Saturday. And started having a little success, started fishing some BFL, some Mr. Bass of Arkansas, which is comparable to a BFL. It's like the oldest running tournament here. It's a pretty big deal here.
Big deal in Arkansas.
Yeah, it is. Like, anybody that's professionally fished from Arkansas has probably won a Mr. Bass somewhere along the way.
Mark Davis, George Cochran's he from Arkansas?
Yeah, George. Yeah. There's a bunch of them. Like Rose, he's too far to the east, but a lot of the Central Arkansas guys, Thugs. I don't know. There's a bunch. Edson Blaylock, a bunch of those guys, fish Mr. Bass through the years. Started seeing some success there. Actually won a Mr. Bass. At this point, I got some local companies to sponsor a little bit. I mean, they might be writing me a $50 check a month, but if 5 of them were doing that, it's back then, a couple tanks of fuel,
Right.
And kind of started that way and still didn't really know, but I was like, oh, it'd be cool if somebody, if the whole sponsor deal would work out. And I just progressively, slowly got a little better. And I mean, I took my licks. It's not like I won everything. Like, I lost a lot more than I won, but the wins were coming.
You're still a fisherman.
Yeah, right. But the wins were coming more often, and at some point, I think I was out of high school, but at some point I'm like, gosh, I would like to see where this goes. Started fishing Toyotas, and I grew up kind of fishing Hamilton, but the Arkansas River at Little Rock is home to me. We used to live 20 minutes. I live 50 from it now, but have the river in my early regional years, the river paid for me to go fishing. Like, that was where I made the money to be able to go do this stuff. And I'd jump in the first Toyotas I've ever fished. I think I made a check in the first 2, but they were playing now. I will say they paid like way down the field. Like, I got a 70th place check or something, but
Right.
I did make a couple checks. I did the Toyotas for a couple years, and then ran out of money. I mean, it's expensive. And then stayed back home fishing more, and I'd catch enough, and I'd put it back. And I'd go fish Toyotas again, and I met my wife in 11. To that point, I kind of committed this is what I want to try to do. And I remember we may have been married already. We got married in 13. I remember going to Lake of the Ozarks for a Toyota series. And yeah, we were married because we were broke. Newly married, new house.
As you are.
Broke, yeah.
Yeah.
And man, I hadn't made a check in the first 2, and I went to Toyota series, and my cranking battery went dead on like the last day of practice. And I had to have a battery. There was no way around it. I remember going like just absolutely wanting to puke when I went to the AutoZone or whatever and bought this battery. And because I bought that battery, I never left Grand Glaze arm because I couldn't afford the fuel because I bought the battery. I remember calling Andrew and saying, well, I'm going to have to buy a battery, so I'm out on running. Like, my game plan shot, I've got to stay right here. And it's not some special, like, I didn't go win the tournament. Like, I don't think I got paid. But I remember that really stuck out how tough this is to make a living doing it and just survive. Not even make a living, just survive doing it. And, man, so right in there, and I think I won at Mr. Bass in 19. And at that point, I had some sponsors, and that helped me gain some more. And Toyotas were doable, and I was fishing those. And I remember seeing the NPFL post in early 20, and everybody was like, yeah, okay, if it ever happens. I mean, I remember our buddy, he'll tell you, our buddy Luke said, oh, he kind of made fun of him on his podcast, and now he works for him. But, but I thought, well, that'd be cool. I'm realistic. Like, I'm not winning everything at the AAA level. This will be a way to fish professionally if I could get in, because I hadn't qualified for anything else. Nothing else you could just walk into, so.
Right.
So, man, I signed up. I'll never forget where I was at. Brad Fuller called me, and we had a long conversation. He said, well, you're in if you want to fish. And I started working, and like March or April of 20 for 21 and rounded up not what I needed, but enough sponsorship that I said, all right, I'm going to fish, and kind of made that next step. Gosh, that first year, I made like after day one of the first tournament, Eufaula, Alabama, I was in 8th and I got a camera. And then I was in 11th after day 2. And I think I finished in 20th. I didn't catch him as good on day 3, but thought, man, it's going to be all right. And I got my butt kicked the rest of the year. And the next year, I had a boy running with me. He was like, it was all new lakes to us, man. All new. Like, I had not been anywhere other. The Toyota Series we fished, it was Kentucky Lake, Lake of the Ozarks, Grand Lake. I mean, that's and Dardanelle. Yep. That's pretty much where we went. And so we opted the next year. At that point, I could swing it a little better, and we opted to we fished a division of the Toyota Series, a division of ABA 150s, top 150 solo, and an NPFL. And I mean, dude, it was like the back, a couple of them. But we were like, we fixing to, well, we can do this. I didn't have kids yet. I was like, we fixing to knock this out and see if this works, and learn.
I bet you learned
a ton.
I bet you were twice the fisherman at the end of that year as you were going into it.
Nearly went broke doing it, but absolutely learned, man. I didn't know anything about Tennessee River except Kentucky Lake. I knew nothing. I'd been on Pickwick maybe once. I think I'd been there for a Fisherman National Championship. But, like, I hadn't been to Tennessee River. I didn't know what to do on ledges. I had a really good time or tournament the one time I did go to Pickwick, but they came up schooling in front of me for 2 days in a row, and I made a check. I mean, I didn't even know what I was fishing. I just knew 5-pounders were blowing up around my boat. But, man, we fished Chick, Gunnersville. That was the year the NPFL went to Watts Bar. Like, there was a bunch of Tennessee River in there. And it was cool when we went to Chick, like in June, my buddy won the ABA 150 solo. It was like a $16,000 win. Right. It was pretty cool. Like, I didn't even, I didn't make a check, but I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, we're learning. And then at the end of that year, we went to Truman with Toyota Series, last term of the year. And I won the Toyota Series there. So it was a really good year for both of us. And I can definitely tell you, I wish I could fish that many every year on the road, multiple day tournaments, because I felt like I learned so much and fished better by the end of that year. And he did too. And
just to me, when you go out once every Saturday and you're not on the lake for a week, like, even if you are really good and you're on them, those things can change so much in a week's time that it gets tough. Like, what really to me teaches me more than anything else is going 3 or 4 or 5 days in a row on the same body of water, daylight to dark, that being your focus, not just having 2 hours here, 2 hours there, which, don't get me wrong, if that's what you've got, then take it. You will get better. Right. But it's total hours on the water, and especially doing them back to back to back in a competitive environment. Like, no doubt, that's what's always made me better is when I fished a lot more. And sounds like you were doing it at a high level and doing it there and won the Toyota.
Yeah, man, it was, and I'm not going to say that it was easy sailing after that on the business end of it. Sorry, I was trying to get my phone turned off, but it helped a lot. That's when the Central Arkansas knew, you don't forget the dude with no legs on the front deck. Like, that's pretty easy to remember, right? So Central Arkansas knew who Hunter was, right? Even not from my fishing as much as just knew who I was, but outside of that, man, most people didn't, even a Toyota, unless you're right there around them on the water, you never know who you're fishing against. That Toyota,
there's very few pictures of a guy that gets paid in 23rd.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
It's his own on his own Facebook that he's proud to post.
Right.
But so the Toyota deal, that was it really, I'll never forget, this laptop I'm on is by far the fanciest laptop I've ever had. It's the only laptop I've ever had, I think. And I never thought I'd spend that much on a laptop. But I remember I left, and when I got home, Truman's like 5 hours from my house. I got home like 11 or 12 at night, and I had like 80 missed calls, 500 text messages, or whatever it was. And I had booked 8 interviews in the first 4 days. And I'm like, I don't even have anything to do an interview on except for my phone, which was junk. And so we went and bought a laptop just to do those interviews. And it was like the fishing world learned, not, at least who I am, not that I'm somebody, but that's when most of the fishing world saw Hunter, for the first time. And You saw it on the
Was
social
that 20 or 21, something like
That
that?
was 22.
22. Okay. So I had seen, because Charlie fished the NPFL that first year, I was kind of keeping up with them when they were in their infancy, and had saw you on live, and I'm like, this dude ain't got no legs and ain't got but one hand. I mean,
Yeah.
Lieutenant Dan out there catching them.
Yeah. And I think the live would have helped more, except for that was their first ever when I had a camera. And they had a lot of bugs. Like a lot of that didn't ever get out there, you know. But yeah, it was. I'll never forget that. My buddy told Brad the day I found fish like the last evening of practice, like in the last hour. I mean, like I shook 20 pounds off in the last hour, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm fixing to wreck them. And my buddy tells Brad, and Brad sticks a camera in the boat. The first day at that level I've ever fished in my life, and he sticks a camera in my boat. I'm like, oh no. But I did. It was really good. Yeah, some saw it then, and then the Toyota deal. A lot of people. It was really neat. Like I said, it didn't make anything easy, but at least not everything is a cold call, or when I meet somebody, at least they've heard or saw a picture or something, you know, most of the time.
Well, that's kind of when I became a fan, is right after you won that Toyota. You had done an interview with Luke Duncan on Low Budget Live, not so live, according to Luke. And I'm like, I like this dude. Like, he's got some disabilities, but he freaking goes and beats guys that have been doing this forever that don't have any disability. Like, that's the cool part about it, is you're a hammer regardless. Like, I don't give a shit. Somebody give me 4 hands and four arms. Like, Hunter Baughman's going to beat me most of the time. Like, you're that good. That's what's so freaking cool about it.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot.
So let's talk a little bit about that Toyota Series win. So you had fished, what was it, 20 or 21, all those tournaments, or was it 20? Was that the year that you had fished all of them?
That year, yeah.
So you're fishing the NPFL, we're fishing the ABA 150s, you're fishing Toyotas. We get to the last one, you know, subpar year. Kind of, how was your year going into that tournament? What was your mindset?
Terrible. The only check I made all year. The worst year I've had on the NPFL. Gosh, if it wasn't for the 10th that you follow this year, I might rival it. But no, it was seriously the worst year I've had on the NPFL as a whole. The ABAs, I felt like I was like half pound out of a check every time. The Toyotas, I know for a fact that Grand Lake and the Toyotas, I foul hooked one on the side of the head on a bed that I threw back, cost me a check. Like, I wasn't way out, but I was out every time.
Yeah.
So it was definitely like, that's what everybody, what are you going to do with all your money? And I'm like, I don't think you understand how much that just covered the year. Like, that's not, you know, that's just getting you back where you need to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a lot, and a lot of the best guys out there did this when they started, is, you know, they're sponsored by Capital One and Amex. So we get to Truman. Talk about that tournament, kind of what conditions were. Is in the fall, is that right?
It was September. It wasn't true fall. It was kind of hot, but it's a really bad time of year to be in the Midwest. I mean,
it's a really bad time to be anywhere besides up north.
Well, that's true. Yeah, it wasn't good. And so, you know, with those, you don't have any off limits or information, right? So I talked to a buddy that lives in Missouri. He'd been there one time. And he won a Bass Nation state tournament, regional. I don't even know. It was a Bass Nation deal. I think it's a Missouri state tournament. And he kind of told me what area he gave me nothing. It wasn't like I got dots. It wasn't anything like that. He just said, hey, look, I was there. I only weighed in 8 fish in 2 days, but I caught them on shallow brush in this area of the lake, and I won by like 4 or 5 pounds. And he only had 8 fish. And everybody else had 10.
Pretty big info right there.
And I'm like, that's enough for me to run with. You know what I mean?
Yeah. At least go try that. Yep.
Yeah. So like the day before I leave, a good buddy of mine here calls me. He's like, man, it just hit me where you're going. I've got a friend that lives on the lake. He'd be glad to ride with you a day of practice. Sure, come on. So he jumps in the boat. And we looked at probably some pretty good stuff. Like, we had 13 or 14 pounds, which was a good day there. He did catch like a 4-pounder, but it was all shallow stuff. And I really felt, and I'm a shallow dude, man. I love the Arkansas River. I'm a shallow dude. But with that many boats, the top stuff, like, and I'm so appreciative he even went, like, somebody to offer stuff up is, I mean, that's, but I felt like that stuff was going to be beat to pieces. Like I felt like rolling down a certain bank with a jig, there were going to be 19 other people do it before the tournament ever started, and they're all going to set the hook, and it's not going to be good. Twice during that day, I looked out on my scope and I saw a brush pile. This was kind of a different area, but I saw a pile. Both times I caught a keeper out of a pile. And I'm like, okay, yeah. So this dude's only fishing, he fished one day, made friends with him for sure, but he went back to his life, and I had 2 more days of practice. I told my buddy, I'm just gonna fish. I'm gonna mark every pile I can mark, and I'm gonna shake every bite I can shake. I will not set the hook the next 2 days, but I'm gonna see how many bites I can get. Man, I marked like 100 piles and I had like 60 bites in 2 days. And I still didn't know. Yeah. And I still didn't know because like I didn't know nobody knew anything about Truman except the 15 people that lived there that was fishing it. Like there wasn't a whole lot of, history. Like I didn't know what weights to really expect. I know my buddy that won that deal up there had like, I don't know, 28 or 29 pounds with 8 fish. Like he didn't have a gob, but he had, 15 pounds a day almost or something like that with 4 fish a day. And like I had no idea. And I remember Mark McWall that runs the 12. It was like he's from Arkansas, known him forever.
Great dude.
Yeah, love Mark, man. And like, we come off the water and we're tying stuff down, and he walks over here. He's like, "You gonna catch them?" I said, "Probably not." He said, "Well, have you done any good?" I said, "I don't know, Mark. I've shook like 60 bites in the last 2 days. You gonna be all right if you've had that many bites. And you ain't hooked them. You gonna be all right." I said, "Well, we'll see, man." I really had no idea. And I get my co-angler the first day, man, and super good dude. And we roll out there, and I found like this little rock pile that was off the beaten path, and I had it was big enough to hold multiple fish. I had hooked a fish off it, and it was 3 pounds. And I'm like, well, there was like a dead 3-pounder floating there. Like I guess somebody else hooked one close, and I don't know, but anyway, I was like, well, there's some fish here, so I started there, and I break one off like almost immediately. One swims off. I set the hook, break the line. I'm like, dude, like the next throw, my co-angler catches a 4.5. I'm like, well, this is starting off.
That'll get in your head.
Wonderful. You know what I mean? Like, good for him. I'm not knocking.
Yeah.
Love it. Some of my best friends have been my co-anglers that I've made, but when you break yours off and he catches his, it's like, oh, dang. And I didn't catch any off that rock, but it was really cool story about breaking it off. I'll tell you in a second. But anyway, so I roll off, I start running these piles, and like, it's all right. I catch 12 pounds. I don't know where that's going to be. I get there, I'm in like 23rd. Like I text my wife, and I'm like, well, that's not bad. Like if I do that again, I'll make the cut. And remember, I ain't had a check in all year.
Right.
Like, make the cut, things are good, So the next day I go run, like I couldn't fish everything I had marked, but I go run a bunch of the same and some more different, and I had like 17 pounds. Like by noon, biggins. I got a 4.5 and a 4. I have no idea why they were bigger. Like when I roll up on the rocks, I catch a 3-pounder off them to start, and then like it's good. I mean it.
Yeah.
I remember
flowing. You're kind of in the zone. Everything's going well.
Good decisions, went to one I didn't even have marked, but actually had a game of fish mark on my graph, and I'm like, I'm gonna go over there, and wind's blowing on it. I roll over and catch my biggest fish of the day. Like just making good decisions.
Yep.
And I remember idling in to check in and telling my wife, I was like, well, I'm going to make the cut. Crap, we're going to at least get paid for once. Gosh, I moved all the way up to 4th, which kind of caught me off guard. I think 18 was leading it, and dude had not that. I mean, it was like they didn't catch him near good. Then all of a sudden, I'm up like 1.5 pounds out, and I hadn't even thought about it. Like the winning top 10 didn't even cross my mind. I'm being attacked by a child. And hey, go back in there. Go in there. In there. Go in there and find her. And sorry. Anyway, like
it's all good.
I come off the water and we go to eat dinner, and my buddy's like, "You're gonna win tomorrow." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Dude, you're 1.5 pounds out. You're gonna win." Look at that. That's not even cross my, like I'm so giddy. I'm getting paid. I don't even care, And now I get thinking about it. I remember telling Andrew, I'm like, "Golly, there's a chance. Like I'm gonna have to catch a lot." But there's a chance, I'd have to have 15 or 16.
Right. But if you don't have 17 on them, then you're golden.
Yeah, maybe, So I roll. It was really neat. This is part of the story I was going to tell you. On day 3, I roll to these rocks. I started there every morning. Now I immediately catch a keeper. And I think I know I end up culling it out, but it was like, calm the nerves, day 3, 2-pounder, goes in a box immediately. Dude, I put it in the boat and it spits my jig out from day 1. It was a fish I broke off. And it's hanging, I don't know if you can see it in the picture, it's hanging on this trophy. I kept that jig. And
That's
I'm
cool.
like, this may be my day, and I roll from there. And it is. I mean, the good Lord's just with me, man. I roll up, I catch like a 3.5. I go to another stump, I catch another 3.5. I get on this real shallow pile, and I'm using scope to see the piles, but I'm not scoping fish. Like it's still I'm pretty green on scope at that point still. And I like throwing there and I get hung. I broke so many jigs that when I get hung, I just roll up there as fast as I could and try to knock it off, and then keep going. And I kick trolling on high to go get it. And I happen to look down my graph and a fish swims around the pile. And that was still pretty new to me to even see a fish swim, but like a fish may loop around the pile. And I stopped and dropped my power poles and broke it off, and like the whole tree shook. Like I'm breaking 17. Like you got to pull on it, but I break it off and I pick up another jig and I throw out there and I catch a 5-pounder, like the biggest fish I've caught all week, 20 feet from it. I got to stop my boat right in front of it. And I'm like, oh gosh.
After you shook it and broke one off and all this.
Yeah.
Like not supposed to happen.
Yeah. And now I'm at like 17. I'm like, holy crap. And I roll and like pull up on this other. I remember I was going between piles. I had everything marked so close that I wouldn't even start my motor. Like I'd go for like a quarter mile down a bank and I'd throw it every stump, every twig, but that's what I had marked. And I knew exactly. I'd just kick it on 100, go 50 feet. I'd make a throw, kick it on 100 and go again. Man, there's this brush pile like big as my boat that I have missed the whole tournament. Like I've drove past it 2 days with live scope and never seen it. And it's there, just like clear as day. And so I'm like, dang, look at that pile. And I stop and throw the side of the boat as I'm passing it. And I set the hook and it's just buried up. I mean, it's shaking its head. And then I go around it like 5 times. Can't get this fish out. I've been on there 10 minutes. My co-angler's a nervous wreck just from watching me. Like he's standing there with the net, and I finally looked at him. The fish had quit fighting. I mean, it was so tired he'd quit fighting. I looked at him. I said, "Dude, I ain't going to get that fish out of there. That and right there is going to hurt because it was a good one." And I turned trolling on high and I grabbed to break my line. And when I did, the limb broke and a 4.5-pounder floated up with it. Like just looked like he was dead because he was so tired. And he nets it and it puts me over 19 pounds. And I'm like, golly, man, that's a lot of
So
fish.
now the guy behind you's got to catch 18 to beat you, the guy that was leading.
Yeah. And I'm like, golly, what? Now I'm nervous. I ain't been nervous at all. I'm never nervous. And I'm like, can't tie, can't think, can't even talk to the dude in the back of the boat. Like, I remember I had one that was trying to die, and it was like a 2 3/4, and I had a 2.5 or something like, 2 fish pretty close. Now I stopped and spotlight and called Mark, and I'm like, how much of the death penalty? Trying to figure out which way is going to cost me more, And then I'm like, I don't think I can beat 19 pounds anyway. And I'm like, well, can I just leave 6 in the boat, not make a throw, and troll down the bank for 30 minutes and let my co-angler fish and see what this fish is going to do? Well, he had to end up calling Daniel Fennell at home because he didn't
had that ass before. Right.
And they're like, no, you can't be in the act of fishing. So I had to, but this is like a 20-minute ordeal that I finally calmed myself down. Like I'm just trolling down the bank until they tell me, letting dude fish. Like I want him to catch him, and anyway, I fished. I caught some more, but it would have been really hard. Like a 2 1/4 was a big one, and it would have took almost 3-pounder to cull.
Right.
I went in like 15 minutes early. I never go in early. Like I shook all the way in, all the way idling in. I couldn't hardly hold the steering wheel. And then I had to sit up there and wait, for all the co-anglers to weigh in, wait from 25th to 1st or whatever. And it was a neat deal, man. That was probably a long drawn out story, but it was a neat deal.
It seems like when you're supposed to win, you can't do nothing to keep it from happening. And when you're not supposed to win, there ain't nothing you can do to make it happen. You know what I mean?
That's right, for sure.
Well, let's roll into, let's talk about some rivers this time of year. Now, I know it's like this in Arkansas because I got a pin on my duck hole and I'm getting heat advisories from Arkansas. It's a hot, like I've seen squirrels put talcum powder on their nuts out here. I mean, it's like 2 rats cracking in a wool sock, $2 pistol, whatever analogy you want to use. It's a middle of July and it's hot. Hell, it's supposed to be hot in the South. It's a middle of July. Like water's finally come down and we're still getting a lot of rain, some passing showers, some stuff like that. But let's talk about what you do on rivers specifically this time of year. we're going to pull up a map of Lake Dardanelle and kind of do some looking and some places that, if you were headed out there to fish a BFL or whatever you're fishing right now, kind of some stuff that you would go look at doing. Let me get her pulled up here. Okay. Can you see that okay, Hunter?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So right here is the lower end of Lake Dardanelle. If I'm not badly mistaken, right there is where most of the tournaments go out of, isn't it? Like the bigger tournaments?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
I fished one tournament forever ago on Dardanelle, and this was, you're talking about back when they paid. I finished 47th and made $1,800 in the ABA championship there. A dude went to the Classic.
I knew
Lake
that.
Dardanelle's, Lake Dardanelle is not I wouldn't say it's a destination phenomenal fishery that everybody's just jonesing to go to, but it's a river. There's very few rivers that are.
Right. Lake Dardanelle is by far one of, if not the best lakes in our state. Maybe Bull Shoals beats it for just numbers of fish getting caught down the list, but Dardanelle kicks out the biggest weights pretty much of anywhere that's a large place around here. And typical river, those 4 or 5 at the top are going to catch them, and everybody else under that, they're going to have a pretty grimy tournament. Even the ones catching them are grimy sometimes, but it can be tough even in the spring. This time of year for sure tough.
So what's a good weight on a river kind of in the southeast this time of year? I mean, around here, to me, Dardanelle compares to Old Hickory really close. Dardanelle is probably a little bit better than Old Hickory is as far as having some better quality in it. But 16 pounds, 15 pounds will get you a win this time of year a lot of times. What's a good weight there this time of year?
Yeah, I told you my Old Hickory. I'm pretty sure 3 pounds wins at Old Hickory for my trip there. Dardanelle, man, I don't know. This time of year, it's still going to take close to 20 there. Dardanelle, the one outlier that's outside of the rest of the Arkansas River would be, except for Dumas, would be the Backwater. It's got extensive backwater, lots of grass, lots of pads, and that does hold some bigger fish. But, a typical tournament right now may be 20, 19, 18, 17, and then it may go to 14, and by 7th or 8th, it may be 11.
Right.
It will fall off. The top guys will land around them, but it will fall off for sure. As you can see, there's gobs of backwater everywhere you go, and pretty much everything that's not in that river channel has grass and pads.
Okay, so let's pick an area and go try to start. When you get kind of into these dog days of summer, when things are this hot, to me it spreads fish out tremendously. There's usually, especially around here, there's very few ledge schools that still got a bunch in it that are eaten just because they've been pounded on since, the 1st of June or last of May, something like that.
That's
so
right.
Are you picking kind of the upper third, this middle third here, or are you trying to fish down here at the very bottom, close to the dam, offshore stuff?
So for me, I'm picking the upper third because it's true river, and that's what I enjoy. But that does get tougher as that current dies on that upper third. But up there, you're looking for, there's a lot of jetties. There's a lot of, there'll be some shell beds. There'll be some grass, not as much. But right now, there's still current Arkansas River, and I'm fishing current breaks, ends of jetties, blow throughs if there's a cut in a jetty, something like that. Those are whole groups of fish right now.
Talk a little bit about jetties, because that's something that we don't have on a lot of rivers around here, but the farther, a lot of different places that you have those.
Yeah. I didn't really realize till I started traveling that most rivers don't have them, they're everywhere on the Arkansas River. A lot of people call them wing dams. I mean, that may make more sense, but they're just a rock dam, a rock point going out off the bank into the river. And it's hard to describe, but they're put there by the Corps of Engineers. I really don't be lying if I told you exactly, but it has something to do along the lines of directing the current flow and keeping the sand from filling everything up,
Yeah, it instead of letting the current spread out, it basically forces the current into the middle of the channel, which keeps your channel moved out for, cleaned out for navigation purposes is kind of what they're for, I think. I fished them on the Mississippi River up north, pool 4, pool 5. There's a bunch of them up there, and it's like it will get you in trouble if a man don't pay attention. Most of them are marked on your mapping, depending on what graph that you've got. Most of them are marked. But if you get out of the river channel, any river in the country, pay attention to where you're at, because you'll be running up through there and you'll be in 15 foot of water. And then all of a sudden, here's a giant wing dam that's 6 inches under the water, and you will tear your stuff up quicker than a hiccup.
Yes, absolutely, man. The rule of thumb on any river is if you're not very comfortable with it, when you leave the buoys, you need to idle, period. If you're in the buoys, you're safe. And there's a lot of running outside them if you know what you're doing. But man, a jetty will ruin your day in a hurry for sure, man. But they make
so like right here would be a jetty. Right there would be a jetty. As you get down here, right here's a big one.
Right. Some of them I don't think do. Some of them have 90s on them, like where they come out and make a 90 and go down the river underwater a lot of times. But they make great places for fish to hold, because on the upside of those jetties, the current's hitting them, right? So at some point on that jetty, it goes from pushing current towards the bank to pushing the current towards the bank to pulling current out towards the river. And they'll be okay, baby. Yeah, go back in there, okay?
Let's get her on here for just a second. Let's at least let her say hi.
Yeah. Oh, this is Kinley. This is the oldest. Can you say hi?
Hi, Kinley.
Hi, Mr. Ben.
Boy, that's a cool shirt you've got on.
Isn't that neat? See, that's what Daddy's doing.
Go see what Cassie.
No, you go in there with Cassie and Mama, okay?
Mom.
Because
Mama's not in here.
Mama's in the house somewhere. Go.
She's not in the house, Daddy.
Okay, we'll go. I'm sorry. I'm texting my wife now. Get your kids. All right. So jetties. Well, you want to see the other one too, Ben?
Yeah, let's see both of them.
Come here, Cass. This is Cassidy. Can you say hi? Come here. Hi. Your mouth's dirty. You've been eating.
Hi. How are you?
Don't pick your nose.
I'm glad they got their looks from her mama.
Yeah, right. I hear your mama. Y'all about to be in trouble.
No.
You're good.
Come on. I ran outside to feed the dog. I'm sorry.
You're good.
Get in.
They're in trouble now, Ben.
Mama's not in the house. She went all the way outside to feed the dog.
I said, Andrew, go to your mama. But she's not here. I said, she's in this house. Kenley goes, no, she's not. She's feeding dogs. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. Life of
You're good.
Dad. Jetties. When that water hits the upper side of them, somewhere on there that current's going to split. Like, It sounds weird to even think about it, but 100% somewhere on the upside of every jetty, when it hits it, half that jetty, the current will be going towards the river, and half will be going towards the bank.
So you're creating an eddy in this corner right here.
Yeah, but it's not going to be in the corner. A lot of times it's about halfway out. It's strange.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay.
So, those, and you're not pulling up just to fish that, right? Because 3 throws and you can be all the way down a jetty, with a crankbait or something. But you'll notice most of those bites will come in that slack where the current breaks 2 different directions because it's doing something different. Making that.
That's juicy, dude.
Yeah. And then, of course, the ends of them, there's a good eddy on the backside, right? The back corner, the front of it.
At the very tip.
At the very tip on the backside of it. Usually there's a sandbar or something kind of built up where that sand will fall off right at the tip because as the river gets high, the water washes over the jetties and it brings sand over it and it just kind of silts in on the backside a lot of times.
Yeah.
So that's the other place most times they're sitting. They're pattern oriented. If you catch them on the tip, you can probably run the tip to the next 15 and get bit on the majority of them, maybe not all of them. If you catch them on the upside, then you can do that. And sometimes it's on the downside. And it's weird because some of those, and I don't know what makes some of them silt on the bottom and some of them not. I guess the taller ones don't silt because the water doesn't get over them as much. Some of them will be like 30 foot deep on the bottom side, and a lot of times you can flip the grass or something on that. Probably
like right here's a line that you can see. There's like 4 or 5 of them in a row.
Yes.
but you can see them on your map. Most of the time they're marks. A lot of time there's just a line there, and it's like these are actually showing depth changes, but a lot of times there's just a line there. So everybody make sure you're paying attention when you're going up to these things, because it will get shallow in a hurry and it will tear your stuff up.
Yeah, don't run over any lines on your graph. That's a bad thing. The one thing that I've told a lot of people, and to me, it's just normal knowledge because it's what I've kind of always known. But it surprised me how many people that fish the river don't know this, and it's something really good to remember that until a certain level of, say, flooding, the upper end, when the current, like the upper end elevation wise is higher than the lower end of every pool, right? That's how you get the dam. Like it all runs elevation wise down, right?
Yep.
So it's confusing to even think about, but as the current flows fairly hard, and I don't know how it relates to every river, but I can tell you on the Arkansas River, it probably isn't affected till the current gets to 40,000 or so cubic feet per second. Small craft is at 70,000 cubic feet per second. So it gives you kind of an idea where we're at here. At 40 to 50,000 up to 80 or 90,000, the upper end will rise as the flow gets more, because there's more water coming in, right? Rising river, you think more water coming in, rising river. The bottom end will suck out and be low. Once there's enough. Go ahead.
Well, you see a lot of different places. I think it's Neely Henry I think it's Neely that's like that. It may be Logan Martin, but there's one of those Coosa River deals that it's actually got kind of a horseshoe in it, and that water will stack up behind it. There may be a foot difference in elevation in the water behind that, just because of the way the river flows, and it's a pinch point and that water can't get out. Kentucky Lake is the exact same way. So if you look at Kentucky Lake as a whole, there are 4 or 5 big bridges between the dam and, Pickwick. And there's probably more than that, but especially at like the Danville Bridge, if you've ever seen it. I mean, that thing necks down to where it's just a channel. It's an old railroad bridge there. There's a ferry that runs. The bridge isn't there anymore. But that causeway necks that current down so much that it literally feels like you're going uphill when you're driving your boat. Like you can feel it, the water level rise as you go above it.
Well, now this, what I'm talking about is like at the top of the pool, it may be 8 or 9 feet high, and 30 miles downriver, it'll be a foot low. Like this is over the entire length of the pool.
Right.
But it's really weird that it does that. It'll pull it all out. And it's something to pay attention to. Like you may think, oh, I'm going to go run jetties, and you drive 30 miles to the top of the pool and everything's underwater. But if you'll go 10 miles back down, everything will be kind of out of the water. And by the time you get down the lower end, if you're wanting to flip grass, well, there may not be any grass in the water because of the flow. It's a suction type deal. Yep. Because once it gets over 90,000 or so, there's enough water coming through that everything gets high.
Right. But basically they're sucking it out down at the bottom and pushing it in at the top. So it's got to be higher at the upper end.
Right. Yeah.
All right. So we've got, if we're fishing jetties, give me 3 baits that you're always going to have tied on in the summertime, dog days, tough to get a bite.
A Brazalo finesse jig, 5/16 round head jig. Like when we fished, you saw out there quite a bit. I love me a finesse jig that catches so many fish. If there's current, it's hard to beat a square bill or like a Bandit 200, a 6 to 8 foot diving bait.
I mean, dude, that's a Dardanelle special.
Absolutely. And then a buzz bait, man, especially if these jetties got any grass on them. A buzz bait, the killer, especially early in the year, early in the day.
Okay.
Those 3 always get bit.
All right. Let's say we've tried some jetties up and down the river and they're just not happening. Give me kind of a secondary pattern.
All right, so then you're going to roll down, because everything up there is rock related when you get that far up the river. So you're going to roll down the river, mid-lake or mid-river, go in one of the bays, and this is where it gets tricky because you see all the water. But you're going to get in one of these backwaters, one of these bays, and you're going.
One of these, okay?
Yeah. Trying to think where we're at there. Yeah.
That's Spadra.
We're out there. Spadra is well known as being good. Yeah, you're going to get back in there, and that doesn't look that big on the map. That's a whole lot of backwater. Mm-hmm. And you're going to fish pads and grass pretty much. Maybe flip some wood if you see some wood to flip. But you're going to actually be looking for a group of fish doing that. That's typical pad fishing. Like there'll be nothing for a mile, and then there's 20 pounds in a 100-yard circle, you're going to look for that group of fish in the backwater, and that is very time consuming. Like that's something you need practice days for, or you get really lucky on tournament day and land on them. But that's a real good way to catch. That's a better way to win a tournament than going up the river, hands down. Probably on any river is that backwater vegetation related fish. Usually is a bigger fish. It's a harder fish to find, but it's a bigger fish most of the time. The river, to me, and that's where I've kind of failed to not win more stuff. I mean, I've won a bunch of stuff on the arc, but like I ain't never won a BFL or anything. And I think that's because I fish so river related. It's a very good check cutting technique. It's not a great winning technique unless everything lines up perfectly.
Right. It's a 14, 15 a pound. Like if 20's winning it, it's a 14, 15 a pound. Going to get paid, going to get some bites. They're going to eat. You know what I mean?
That's right. And that's where Dardanelle gets his weight is at backwater, because you leave there, say you go to Little Rock, 15's going to win it, 13's going to get paid, but it's all that river related stuff. It's very little, there's not much to fish outside that's not current related. So that's where you see the other pools of the river not be as good, except Pine Bluff Harbor, Dumas, and then Dardanelle. And that's because those three pools have backwater.
Are you looking at any offshore stuff this time of year, or are you going to the bank?
True River, no. Dardanelle has cleaner water in some of those bays, like in creek channels, stumps, or you go in the bayou down there at Russellville and there's ledges and brush piles. Like you said, there's not going to be a big group by now. Like it'll be pull up, you catch a 3-pounder, you run 20 more spots and you catch a 3-pounder. Like I mentioned, Pine Bluff Harbor, you probably remember when the elites were at Little Rock. Denny Breyer won out of Pine Bluff. Like the whole field went to Pine Bluff because it's a huge lake and it had brush piles and sand drops and stuff. If you have one of those backwater areas, yes, but you're still not looking. You're looking at 10 to 15 or 8 to 15. I mean, you're not looking deep. You're just looking deeper. Whereas a river, you're looking at 2 to 6, pretty much.
And a lot of that's got to do with watercolor. Like they just, any time that you can't see a foot down there, majority of them ain't going to be real deep.
Yeah, and the river, it'll get, like, especially as much current as we're running now because of all the rain and everything in Oklahoma's high. It'll run current, like we're already starting to clear up. It will run current, and it really run pretty clear for the Arkansas River. It'll run. You'll see 3 foot down, which is clear. And they really get tough once that current goes away when it's like that, because then they kind of set up out there. If you do find them, they're on a sand drop, like you're going to catch them every throw. But they're really hard to find once the current goes away. Most of the time, the stuff I found that's really good when there's no current, there's fish schooling. Like I'm fishing something and you see a fish come up and blow up 4 or 5 times way off. And it's about, like, it's not a carp rolling. You see a schooling fish. Then you roll over and try to figure out where they were at, where they're setting, because they're probably there for a reason.
Yeah, for sure. No, that makes all kinds of sense. So is current your big factor? Like you can is it current or water level that affects them more?
Current for sure. Water level is going to change where they're at. Current makes them bite and groups them up. Like last week was the first time I was in Little Rock since April because it's been so high. And the fish hadn't been beat on, hadn't been hooked. And dude, it was like 10 to 15 keepers off everywhere you found that had a fish. Like if you pulled up and there was fish sitting there, it was every throw. And it's all current related. I went back and fished tournament last night and they're still there. But 1, they're getting beat on. Like a lot of that stuff's really obvious and they're getting hooked. And 2, it's starting to slow down a hair. It's starting to clear up a hair. They're not up there in that 2 foot on a drop somewhere. They're starting to spread out a little bit. They're seeing bait fish a little more. They're starting to follow them. It starts changing.
Anything else that we need to touch on rivers, kind of here in the dog days?
Man, fish for 5 bites, especially if you're fishing backwater or, if you're doing the current deal, you're going to get more bites or you're going to get none. Like it may be bad and you get none, but if you're getting bites, you're going to get a lot of bites probably. But winning type stuff, most of the time it's like, just hang with it because it's tough. And really, honestly, for me, when it gets super hot and there is no flow, we catch some fish, but till 10 or 11 o'clock, it's not that good to me. Like I like high sky. I hate a cloudy day in the summer. Like when the flow's gone, I hate a cloudy day. I want it as hot and miserable and calm, no wind as you can possibly get. and they really get set up a little better to catch them. They get tucked into that cover, and that just goes back to shade and stuff like that.
That makes a ton of sense.
But any river, not other than the Tennessee River, anywhere I've ever been, is not real good. Like, that's why you don't see a ton of national level tournaments on true rivers, like grimy rivers, because the weight, like Sabine, you see the elites go to Sabine and they catch a bunch of fish, but they're little. I mean, it's that they don't bunch up by size most of the time. You don't get a lot of bites. Like, you could catch 3 12-inchers and then a 5-pounder. You need to be ready and not quit, because the 5-pounder could be on your first throw or it could be on your last real easy.
I'll do that. I mean, it doesn't have to be super complicated. Like, a man can turn his live scope off and go fishing. Now, I'd run mine just to show you where the corners of those jetties and stuff are. But now, if a man don't want to, you can pick up your James Watson FFS, your freaking flipping stick, and the T-shirt that got him fired from Garmin, and you can go catch them. Well, dude, that's awesome. That's some really good information. I'd never really thought about the current splitting on those wing dams, and I fished some. Again, the Mississippi River's got them exactly the same way. But that's great info. Well, we're going to kind of wind it up here in a second. A couple of more questions for you. What is the craziest thing anybody has ever said to you about your handicap, about your appearance? What's the wildest thing anybody's ever said?
Man, there's a couple of things that come to mind. One, I was at a restaurant one night with some other guys for a Toyota series, Chili's, matter of fact. And the waitress was like, "What are y'all doing in town?" Blah, blah, blah. We're like, fishing a tournament. And she said, "Oh, do they have disabled tournaments?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm fishing like you other people, normal, But that was funny. But the craziest thing, I was in Walmart. I may have told you this when we fished. I was in Walmart and I'm like doing my own thing, going down the aisle, and this kid's like losing it, throwing it, just having a fit. And the
As
mom
they do at Walmart.
Right. The mom passes me, doesn't say hi, nothing. She points at me as she passes and says, "That's what happened when you don't wear your seatbelt," and never quit walking.
Had no idea about your story. Just assumed it was a car wreck.
No. And most time, especially if a kid or something asks, I'm always like, "Oh, an alligator got him or a shark got him. Where are your legs?"
Right.
Shark got him. Matter of fact, check this out. My buddy Mongo, I don't know if you can see this. He sent me this shirt the other day. Before you ask,
it was a shark.
That
is awesome.
Because if people ask, but man, people are like, most of them are like, "Hey man, what happened?" Some of them are like, "Golly, what happened to you? You're all tore up." And it's, if they're stupid about it, normally my answer is pretty dumb too, but that's okay.
Right. That's wild. Friend of mine's a country music artist, and his big line, and it's so true, is like, people will come up to him and like say the most outlandish stuff in the world, and he'll always be like, "That's kind of a weird thing to say to somebody you first met." You know what I mean? Like, they would have never said that to anybody on the street, but because of a celebrity, you know what I mean? It's kind of the same thing with you. Like, that's kind of a weird thing to say to somebody you've never met.
Man, I always like scaring co-anglers. I had a co-angler one time that never seen me. It was a Toyota series. He's like, "So you can tell he was nervous," because I tell him the night before, "Hey, I'm in this truck and boat. I'll be the dude in the wheelchair. You can't miss me." Well, that already just throws them for a loop most of the time. If they don't know who you are, they're like, "Oh, okay." They hang up and they're telling their boat or their buddies, they're like, "My boater's in a wheelchair," and it's, so I just leave it. Sometimes I don't even tell them that. I just show up and surprise them, be like, "Hey," but I got in a boat with a dude and he's like, "So, have you been doing this long? You drive a boat much?" I guess he was a little nervous, and I was in a basket at the time, a fast one. I said, "Man, no, this is the first time I've ever drove a boat." They said this one was Scream, so we'll find out in just a second. And he just stared at me. I said, "I'm kidding, man. I've been doing this 15 years. I promise you'll be okay."
That is awesome. That is awesome. All right, what is your most embarrassing story on the water or off around the tournament? Something like that. What's Hunter's most embarrassing story?
Man, let me think about this a second. Dude, this is going to be embarrassing to even tell on here. I was at Norfolk, for a Bass Nation state tournament. And it was practice, and it was foggy. And I drove up the river and way up the river. And I'm like, man, my belly hurts. So like, I'm going to handle business like I do. I can't get out of the boat and walk off. So I handle business in the boat.
I don't know why anybody gets out of the boat to do it. It's so much easier to do in the boat.
Yeah, right.
Like, not a problem.
So it's like super foggy. I'm like, well, nobody can see me anyway. So I just pull up along the bluff on the side of the river and I handle business. And I hear like a rock move above me. And I look up and there is a parking lot full of people at an overlooking the river at daylight. And I am square below them. And I just put my head down and finish my business.
And like, you know, there may be 8 or 10 guys in the field that's kind of got my same body type, body shape, stuff like that. Like, people know it's you, dog.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I know. I parked directly underneath the scenic overlook.
That is awesome, and one of the best stories that's been told on here. That is really cool. That is cool. Well, dude, again, guys, y'all follow Hunter Baughman. Check him out on the NPFL. I know you do some public speaking, you know, kind of talking about overcoming what you've overcome, speak at some churches, that kind of thing. So anybody needs to reach you, where do they need to find you? Man,
they can get on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Hunter Baughman Fishing at all of them, or you just go to Hunter Fishes, FISHES.com. It's my website, and it'll take you to any of them, or you can send me a message on there. There's lots of ways you can find me. Get on any social media profile and type in hashtag Hunter Fishes, and you'll find me.
As long as you're not standing in like tall grass or weeds.
Yeah. You may not physically find me, but you'll find me on the internet.
He's easy to find on the internet, but kind of easy to look over if you ain't paying attention.
That's right.
And he and I have got close enough that I give him heck about it. And again, he's just a great dude. Takes it in stride, makes fun of me too. So I have a lot of fun with him. Great guy. Guys, you can take what you learned right here to the bank.
Yeah, you can take it to the bank. Hold the line, hey, you know we on the way all the time. Yeah.